we thought it would be a fun idea to walk through 5 ways to get your girls involved in the kitchen. And one of the ways, and we're talking about little girls, so we wanted to talk about this because we wanted to come across from the vantage point, not as moms that have had little girls, or maybe are in the throes of the stage right now.
Because we are not.
We are not. But we wanted to come through the vantage point of girls that have received this attention and this blessing of when we were younger, being brought into the kitchen at an early age, and how that really had an impact on us now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Glory podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lydia Edmonds, and I'm joined by my delightful co-host, Esther Edmonds.
Hello, everyone.
So today we have a very special episode, a little chat between Esther and I, so let's jump into it.
Alrighty, so we thought it would be fun to just kind of do a catch-up on our lives and what we're doing. So Lydia, why don't you go ahead and open us out with what are you doing currently, and what are you working on for your business, and then we'll dive into some personal updates.
Okay, so as far as the business goes, I have still some news I'm keeping kind of under wraps, but things we're working on behind the scenes that would be a business venture that I would be able to run from here, home, where the gardens are and whatnot. And so then trying to, keep up on health and care of the chickens as they're getting ready to lay, and taking care of the ones we already have. And then our brothers are doing meat birds, so helping out there. It's about time to take care of business on that front and put them in the freezer.
Which that was I feel like we should share the story behind. So we recently, the boys got into doing meat birds, which was already kind of like an interesting business venture that they wanted to get into. But it was funny. We had the delightful opportunity to go help some of our church friends out with their meat birds, and they were going to do their processing day. And that was an interesting experience because we weren't sure, first of all, whether the ladies were going to be invited to this, but we were. And it turned out to be a really profitable time. But it was really funny because it's just one of those things that I feel like, especially for like me, I wouldn't have wanted to necessarily do that if I was like thinking about it. Like, it's just not one of your things. Is not like, I would love to just get a chicken one day.
Well, I remember when we were there thinking like, well, they're going to respect the fact that like the women aren't going to have to
we might not
take the guts out. And so my dad jumped into it on the first go round with the people that were hosting us. And
great people.
Yeah, so the guy who gave the demonstration, my dad was right there kind of as the, person who was doing it for all of us and like learning alongside. And my dad's the type that also like once you've taught him, he's such a great teacher, like laying out what you're supposed to do. And so once he got the hang of it, having we had like 3 or 4 people that really knew what they were doing there, or I guess 2 or 3 anyway. But but then he did his first one. We went through the whole process, and so they did 2 to start, and then it was time for 3 and 4, and he was like, Girls, do you want to come do it?
Come here, come gut the chicken with me.
And I should never have an attitude of pushback. It should, had we been at home, I'd probably be like, Dad, are you serious? Like, surely you're kidding. But in the moment, it was also not the moment to be like, but Dad.
Well, so there was a bunch of people there, and everyone was kind of doing their part.
Yeah.
So it was
not the moment to not do your part.
It wasn't the moment to be like, yeah, no, I'm going to pass.
This is not for me.
Which I think was really great because it did push us. It was like we didn't have an option to say no.
Right.
Which you shouldn't say to your dad anyway, but it was kind of like it was a fun, like, it was a really funny experience. But then once you got into it, it was really great. It didn't bother me. Well, but it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Like, I thought it was going to really just, I was going to be like, oh my word, this is so gross. But once you dove into it, it really wasn't.
Well, they were not my chickens, and so I hadn't developed a relationship.
That also helped.
And so, but the biggest thing for me was the feeling, like, you see guts and stuff on watching, like, I think we had started a Joel Salatin video about him doing the meat process.
Like, I think there was, chickens. We had tried maybe watching a show like Meat Eater or something.
Yeah, so you've seen guts, but, like, never touched them. And then
the boys, obviously, they, like, strung up deer.
Yeah,
right
they've done all of that. So the field dressing and all of that is deer. So they knew what they were doing. They kind of did feel, but I've never felt that. I've heard about the heat, and it just looks squishy and jello-y and weird. And I already have like a...
All the viewers right now are like, no, don't stop talking.
Yeah, I know. But it was like, anyway, so I was really just nervous about how it was going to feel. Like, because, anyway. And so, but like, it was a moment, like, everyone was doing their part, and you had to just jump in. But that was really the best thing, because you might as well jump at the deep end and then learn to swim and get your bearings about you. And so
I didn't want to do it at first, because it wasn't so much that I was nervous that I was going to be grossed out by it. That was one thing.
Yeah.
But also, it seemed really technical. And I don't know why. Well, okay, so sewing is very technical, so I guess it would have been, and very meticulous, so I guess it would have been fine. But it's new, and it was somebody else's birds, and you just didn't want to ruin anything.
If you're like, I burst something, that shouldn't be burst.
Right. And so it was just really funny, and promise we're going to stop talking about the chickens in just a minute, but
we will move on.
It was really funny, and I was thinking partway through, I was like, what a great experience, because like, you hear about like people's grandmothers, and they were like, I remember way back when we wanted fried chicken for dinner, Mom would just go and... She
went out and killed one.
Yeah, and it was like, that day we had fried chicken and whatever. And so it was a really fun experience, and just a bunch of camaraderie, knowing we were helping out a fellow Christian, be able to help feed them, and it was going to provide for them, and that you got to have a hand in that, and then also gain the experience, and just know, like, if push came to shove, you could do that for others.
Right.
And it was just a really fun experience. And so anyway, so that's a long story, but I thought that was a really neat side note, and it was really we were really grateful for the experience, and it really was fun. We all had lunch together, we got to know each other, because these were some Christians we had just gotten to know,
right?
And it was a lot of fun, and it was like, okay, I may not do this, like, if we get married, our spouses may not want us to have meat birds, he may not be interested in meat birds, we may not even have the property for meat birds,
right?
But it was just fun to get to know, like, you could do that if you needed to.
And if things ever got really bad, you knew what you were doing, and you just can't put a price tag on that skill,
right?
And also, like, just to be able to work alongside Christians like that, like you were talking, the camaraderie, when you all have, like, and I know it's just like, well, it was meat birds, but we're all working towards a common goal, we're all very like-minded,
right. And
so it was just, everyone is high spirits. I think we were having fun. Like, it was hot, and we got sunburned, but it was fun. Like, it was just a great experience. So
yeah.
Anyway, meat birds on our own property. We're getting ready for that, and then the garden. I'm in a waiting game right now, just trying to care for everything. Trying to fight the bugs. I've been fighting the aphids on the lilies and the glads.
Well, the mildew, right?
I finally got that under control, but it's so funny. The Lord is really just has such a sense of humor, because like, I'll get it under control, and then we'll have days and days of rain, and now we've got the black spot again, and maybe the mildew or whatever, and so I'll have to go back out with my spray and whatnot. But
I've been getting a lot of rain. It's
been good though. We've only had to water like twice, so it's really been a blessing to not have to do that, because it is time consuming, and so. But I've actually been experimenting. I've recently discovered molasses to spray on plants. So, unsulfured blackstrap molasses. And supposedly, so I listened to just a thrilling interview with a scientist guy about it on a podcast.
Scientist guy?
I learned about it actually from Galena Microflower Farm.
Oh, yeah.
She's just a wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it on her YouTube channel. And she posts about it on Instagram, but I was kind of like, just thought it wasn't pertinent to me. Like, well, she has dahlias, so it's for dahlias. And so, but researching about that and how it helps the microbial life, and you're giving your plant the sugar, like the energy it needs to then help photosynthesize. You're helping the soil so that, the plant is getting the nutrients it needs. And then also when you raise the sugar level, it makes it so that the, leaf-sucking insects or leaf-biting insects is undigestible to them, because it is so sweet.
That's very interesting.
And then, like, based on the bug that's attacking it, that tells you about the Brix level it's at, which is the sugar level, basically. Because they use the Brix in the wine-making industry, like with grapes, to know at what level are the grapes ready, then to make wine.
It's really interesting.
So it's fascinating. So I've been doing that for the bugs. and I'm hopeful. I've only recently started that, so I'm hopeful that's gonna help with the aphids and all that. But
that's awesome.
Oh, so just kind of a waiting game, and then special things in the works that I may announce soon. You'll see lots of bouquet making things, and market bouquets going out. So
that's really neat.
Yeah, and eggs.
That's awesome.
If the chickens do their duty.
It's the waiting game.
How about for you? How's business going for you?
Good. We're still in. I was hoping that the website would be up by now, but it's taking a bit more time than I thought. I am still working towards getting it up, but it's still under construction right now. There's so much going on right now in my life. I'm trying to get it all done. So
yeah.
Hopefully get that up and running. I'm also in the process of a dress for you, actually. So and then I also have some other clothing that I need to get going on. So yeah, just
brainstorming mode.
Yeah, I am in a lot of it's sketches and all sorts of fun planning. So yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. It's been a good healthy break to kind of like step back. But no, I'm excited to dive back into it and get going. And it's been still researching, obviously. A lot of research. So
yeah, it's true.
I'm just very excited, which I mentioned this on one of my posts recently, but I would just say as a tip, dive into the books. If you're wanting to research something, especially for design, I would say if you're a how-to would definitely be more like look it up on YouTube, but and even like with some researching, it's great. But especially for me, like for design specifically, and especially in the clothing industry, the books have been super helpful, especially just looking at, I have different books that date on clothing and the main trend of clothing at that time. And it stems from like ancient world to the present.
Oh, cool.
And it's just a really neat way to see the progression of the clothing and how it, like, even down, like I have one of my books that is just really fun, that is talking about specifically why certain trends became the way they were. So like why certain evening gowns maybe started to V in the back, or why they got longer, or why they got shorter, or just the progression of the reason why certain clothing styles developed. And it's really interesting. That may be my nerdy side coming out, but it's really interesting. So like even there's been a really good designer that I really like, Christian Dior's famous designer. Nice. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. But he's like, even like I really like his style. It was a very classy style. And, he has some, pieces in the, Victorian and Albert Museum, and they're just like, it's really just classy pieces. And so but going to the books is really helpful, especially the older books, and because it just tells you certain things that the internet can't, right? Especially like the behind the scenes, or even like down to, like I have one of my books, and I think it is actually, ironically, it was a Shakespeare book, and it's talking about maybe it wasn't. Anyway, now I'm confused. But it was one of my books on the different periods of clothing. Okay. And I think it went from the Egyptian period to like 1950s, I think. So it was an old book. And so and like the 1950s were the present. And so but it was really interesting because even it talked about even the way they cut the fabric, like the certain way they cut it against the grain. It makes it stretchier.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've heard like the bias. So like if you cut a bias strip, that's like you cut diagonal against the grain. Okay. And so and then that makes the fabric stretchy. And so the certain piece that you chose, it makes it really stretchy and more pliable and easily movable. Okay. Which is important for the seams. Anyway, I'm getting too much into the nitty-gritty. But depending on the era is why they did certain things. And it's just really neat. Like even down to like some of the outfits, especially during the Depression or the wartime days, you can just tell, like, so they only had a certain amount of clothing rations, and so that affected the outfits that they wore. So if you can look back, like they used cheap material that was around during that time. And so the iconic look of the wartime is because of the clothing ration.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely like, even down to the details, which I think also just speaks to clothing communicates something.
Yes.
And Rebecca Merkel touched on this in Read the Room, but you can even apply it to clothing, which I think she did touch on it in Read the Room.
Yeah.
And it's just, it really does. It communicates something about who you are, and even down to why you're wearing what you're wearing, and down to the pattern you chose, down to the material you're wearing. It communicates something about what you intend. And so I think it's just, when people say, I just like this particular style, it's like, but you need to articulate why. Because that ultimately, even down to cutting the fabric for the pattern,
matters.
Yep.
Okay, so you were talking about books. What are you reading right now?
I am reading a book by Francis Schaeffer, Escape from Reason. It is a very great book. And the whole point of the book, the whole purpose of it is he is explaining that we need to preach the gospel in our day-to-day lives. We need to be able to communicate as Christians why we believe what we believe. But he said, but you can't do that unless you understand how the people around you think. And so the whole purpose of the book is to walk through just how we got to the stage we're at now, and our modern thinking as a man and as a woman, and why that's important, and how we even got here. And so it's blowing my mind. And even how that affects the arts. So how what we believe and what we think, our theology, ultimately affects everything down to the music we listen to.
That is
and the
so
music
true.
that's produced in the day. And it's just, it's so good. I could not recommend it enough. It's just blowing my mind. So
that's funny you mentioned the music, because on Sunday, that's our pastor mentioned too, when you had like people that were obeying the Bible and reading their Bible and growing, and then they were shaping culture, you saw an influx of good music.
Yep.
So like the Reformation era, you know, like Charles Wesley and all the hymns and whatnot. And so that it really does affect.
It really does.
Because it is often what you hear a lot in the circles we're in is by what standard. And so what is the standard by which either you're going to write or listen to music? So I think that's really, really important. That sounds like a neat book.
Yeah, it's very good. What about you? What are you reading right now?
Okay, I've been working on this book for a minute, and it's not because it's not good. It's a fantastic book, and I've learned a lot. But I've been slowly making my way through The Things of Earth.
Okay.
I did Strangely Bright. Oh, Rigney. Rigney. Both of them. Strangely Bright is a condensed version of The Things of Earth. So The Things of Earth gets into a lot of the weeds, the theological, like, why behind things. And so he talks about, like, how can we as Christians live in the culture and enjoy the things God has given us. Because a lot of times, you know, what he talks about is people's mindset is that, like, if you enjoy burgers or baseball or something like that, that, like, you can enjoy it too much and you'd be sinning. But then how he talks about how enjoying the gifts actually gives you a better love for the giver of the gifts. And so, like, how I can receive a gift from you at Christmas, and I'm like, it makes me enjoy, my love for the gift makes me enjoy you more or appreciate you more, because I'm like,
gotcha.
You know what, she was so thoughtful because of XYZ. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's a really great book, but I've just, through life, because I'm also being naughty and doing a few books at one time. I know. So it's just, that's why. But I'm about to dive into, Lord willing, The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosario Butterfield.
Yeah. We had both bought the book.
We did.
Because we wanted to dive into it together. Which maybe we'll do an episode on it. Guys, let us know if you want us to do a book review episode.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. We could start a book review episode every once in a while, kind of like Stores Our Soul Food Lamps.
Yes. And then I hope to listen to A Typical Woman by Abigail Dodds. I don't have the book, so I was going to listen to it on Canon Plus.
Yeah, I'm right now listening to No Time to Be Dumb.
Oh,
which is
I haven't
very
listened
good.
to that yet.
Yeah, it's read by one of Rachel Jankovic's daughters.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's a very, very fun and easy listen. So
Okay.
it's on the Canon app. And then also, I forgot to mention this, I'm reading as my fiction book. So I've been trying to challenge myself to read a theological book a month. And then alongside that, I try to read one fiction book, one fun read, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I haven't been as diligent on my fiction reading as my theological reading, so I need to do better. But I just feel like I read my theological books in the morning because I feel like that's the best time.
Good time.
And I'm really having a tough time thinking, like, I feel like I always put the theological book as priority, which I think it should. So I'm having a really tough time trying to figure out where to fit the fiction reading into my day-to-day. Because it seems, I don't know, maybe it's just a mindset that needs to change, but it seems silly to say I'm going to take time in the morning to read a fiction book.
If you're going to, like, I feel like you could do a reading at night, because, like, doing fiction at night, like, I've tried to read theological books, and
it's just hard.
It is. It's just hard because you're tired. You've had a long day. You know, you're sitting somewhere comfortable.
I think fiction would be better.
You know, I mean, you shouldn't do it to fall asleep. Who were we listening to? And he was talking about reading like that. And he scheduled out.
Touched on it.
No, but we listened to like a talk, and it was by a guy who was anyway. Because he opened up with the quote of Tigger, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
But because he talked about that, you know, you, like schedule out readings, but then also you shouldn't like read. Like I'm gonna read so I can fall asleep easier. Yeah. And so
you have intentionality with your reading.
Exactly. And so, but I feel like even still, fiction is easier to do at night.
Yeah. I probably should just get better at it. But anyway, the point is that my fiction book that I'm reading right now is Till We Have Faces, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm doing Little Women.
Yeah, it kind of hurts me that it took you this long to read Little Women.
When you have great books like The Winter King, The Sinking City, Forbidden Child, it's just Little Women's still great, but those books take priority.
Classic, Lids.
Yeah, but once you've read The Winter King, you're like, Sinking City comes out, I have to read Sinking City. So
yeah, but anyway, it's a good book.
It is a good book. It's very nice.
Little Women definitely has some certain things that I don't appreciate about it, but overall,
good.
It's a good book.
Yeah. So, on a different note, you had a topic for us.
Oh yeah, we had a question. So we thought it would be a fun idea to walk through 5 ways to get your girls involved in the kitchen. And one of the ways, and we're talking about little girls, so but we wanted to talk about this because we wanted to come across from the vantage point, not as moms that have had little girls, or maybe are in the throes of the stage right now.
Because we are not.
We are not. But we wanted to come through the vantage point of girls that have received this attention and this blessing of when we were younger being brought into the kitchen at an early age, and how that really had an impact on us now.
Yes.
And so one of the ways that we feel like one of the ways to really get your girls involved in the kitchen would be to give them their own cabinet in the kitchen. Yeah. So Mom, when we were little, they really just fostered our imagination in ways that really just shaped us as who we are today. And one of the ways they fostered that imagination was we would want to be with Mom wherever she was. And when it got to her being in the kitchen, she just thought it would be a great idea to give us our own cabinet in the kitchen. And what was in that cabinet was a bunch of random kitchen items that would be like, you know, maybe an empty bucket or a bowl.
Well, there were like random lids in there.
Yeah, like spoons, cups.
Yeah.
But they were all plastic things that couldn't hurt us.
Right, and things we could, like, as you were playing, like, we did a lot of dress up.
Right.
You know, like, okay, we read about Daniel Boone, so we're going to go play Pioneer. You know what I mean? And so, like, it's like, well, we're going to take our bowls and our spoon, and, you know, you and I are going to be cooking back at camp or whatever, you know what I mean? And then also, I remember I used to love to, I would ask her, hey, can I organize our cabinet? Like, can I go, it's gotten messy, can I go put it back together? Like, I don't remember how old I was maybe like 5, 6, 7, but I do have a very vivid memory of like being in the kitchen with Mom. I had the lids and stuff out, and I organized the cabinet.
But it's a really fun way to just get your kids involved in the kitchen with you, and they feel like they're helping. Like, they feel like they're doing something. And at the end of the day, they're observing you, right? And the thing is they just want to be like Mom, right? They want Mom's in the kitchen cooking. They want to be like Mom. They want to do what Mom does.
The girls.
And so, And so, I feel like if you just have like a simple little cabinet with just random plastic items that you don't really care about, it really does just help foster creativity, imagination, and a real love for their mom and a love for the kitchen in ways that they're going to remember. And even if they don't remember, it'll help fuel that for them.
Right.
And it's just like, it makes them feel welcome. Like, this cabinet gets opened when Mom's in the kitchen.
Right.
And it's a really sweet time. And it's really just, it's a really great idea, I feel like. And we really did enjoy it when Mom would do it for us. And, you know, it doesn't, obviously, they'll grow out of it at a certain point.
Right.
But at that point, they'll be ready to help. Like, they'll be ready to be involved.
Right. Because, like, from around that same time, I think we were probably growing out of the cabinet phase or whatever. But the second thing, she would let us clean the oven. Like, for whatever reason, we had a deep desire to clean the oven. And it involved lots of bubbles and soap and probably, you know,
well, I think we had even one of the like crafts that Mom had for us to do was we had aprons, like bright hot pink aprons. And they were really tiny, and they had a cute little ruffle on them at the bottom. And I don't know if they had ruffles on the sides. I think just ruffle at the bottom.
I don't remember.
It was really tiny. You don't remember these?
I must have been too young.
Oh, it was great. And she had bought this, like, sparkle gel glue. And to decorate on over the apron. So I think she got this from Michael's or something.
Okay.
And then we drew on our aprons. And I think mine had like a star on it, like a purple star, and I think it had my name or my initials or something. And we would put on our little aprons.
Oh, I might vaguely remember this now.
While we cleaned the oven, or if we had I think in hindsight, I don't know why you wanted to clean the oven. I think for me, I wanted to clean the oven so I could wear my apron.
Well, I was like, from a very early age, like, I've almost always loved cleaning and organizing. Like, I asked for what birthday was it? 7, 6?
Something.
I asked for a Swiffer wet jet. So I could
literally
mop the floor. I asked for a coffee pot.
Well, yeah,
around that same time
coffee
too.
At 3 years old.
Well, sips of coffee. I was raised on coffee.
You were still drinking coffee at 3 years old.
Yeah. It was. Yeah,
Mom would have her Mom would in the morning. Our mom loves coffee. Oh, well, everyone in our family loves coffee except for Dad. Dad doesn't like coffee.
No.
He's the only guy in the house. Like, even our brothers, love coffee. Like, everyone has their first cup of coffee right in the morning as soon as they wake up, except for Dad.
Poor guy.
Yeah, it's really sad for him. But anyway, the point is that Mom would always in the morning be reading her Bible when we came down and have her coffee. And Lydia would crawl in her lap and, just look at Mom until she gave her a sip of coffee. But it was just a sip. And then as she got older, it became more than just a sip. And then it became her own cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took me a while longer. I was already in high school before I started drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Those high school years started coming around, and I was like,
I've got a bit more experience in that department. It's hilarious. But yes, so cleaning the oven or the counters, or I think we were even every now and then we clean the fridge. You take everything out and you clean the fridge.
I think the fridge was one of those jobs we got paid for.
Money chore.
Yeah, we call them money chores. If you wanted to earn a little extra money so you could go buy a book or an outfit or something, we would have these money chores. It would usually involve things like clean the baseboards, clean the boards, wash the windows.
Right.
Clean the fridge. And they had, like, depending on how hard the job was, it had certain levels of...
And amount, yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you did a hard one, you'd get more money, but then the troublesome thing is you have to do the harder one.
Yeah.
More tedious one.
Yeah, you could rack up the points if you were...
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, you could get rich by those money chores, depending on how many you did. But it always was down to how much time you had, too.
Right. And
it wasn't like the money chores were just standing offers. It was, like, maybe in a weekend.
Right.
It was however many you get done in a weekend.
Right. All right, so we talked about cleaning. What would be a third one you have?
I think it would be like, okay, so just, this may seem just really simple, but just ask them to go get the milk or the butter. Like, if you need them to go, like, if you need something from somewhere, so, like, for our house, we have a basement that has a fridge down there, and it holds, like, our dairy, a lot of our dairy products, because for our family, we have to buy bulk. And so, downstairs holds a lot of our dairy and stuff like that. And so, if you just have something like that, just ask them to go get something. They can do it. They're especially, and this would even be good to get the boys involved too. Like, if you want to go and make them feel good, if you respect them, you're like, go take your strong muscles and go grab me a gallon of milk from downstairs and bring it upstairs. And then just praise them afterwards for it. I think simple things like that, even for the guys too, that would be a good way to get them involved. And respect them, respect their strength. But then even for the females, just make them feel like they're being a help and let them know how much you appreciate it. Because at the ending of the day, it really does take a love for the child. Because, like, so for Mom, I'm confident, like, us cleaning the oven didn't actually help her in the long run.
Yeah.
Like, we left more smudges on the oven than, it would have been there if we had just left it.
Right.
But we felt like we had done her a great service, and it really did. She was appreciative of it, and it was a sweet time because it really does just help foster that, and they feel like they're being a help to their mom.
Right.
And it will inevitably slow you down, but it does really just help. It's a thoughtfulness for them because they just feel like they're doing something for their mom in order to help. And it really does. It's a place of love for you, and it's a place of love from them because then they feel like they're loving on their mom.
And it kids want to feel like they're doing something important, I guess. Like, they feel good to feel needed. Like, Mom needed my help. I help Mom. You know what I mean? It's just, and it's also like little accomplishments that's like, all right, this may sound silly, but like, to do faithfully with a good attitude, go get the milk. You know what I mean? And so it's little accomplishments that then, if you're faithful in that, leads on to big ones. Mm-hmm. And it does help the parent-to-child relationship. At least I know it did for me. Like, it taught responsibility. Mm-hmm. And then also, it's like, what Mom's doing is interesting. Why does she need milk for this? Yeah. And then you're fostering a conversation. Like, hey, Mom, what are you doing? And then, what's for dinner? Yeah. And it really just... it fosters conversation, the kind of another why behind it, like, well, what is she creating here? This looks fun. And or like, oh, do you know what Mom's making chocolate chip cookies. Yeah. Like, this is so exciting.
And kids are just genuinely curious. Like, I've even seen where, like, some moms will just, like, set their kids on the counter while they cook. Mm-hmm. And it's just really sweet because it's like, because they do get that curious phase.
Why?
And everything's just why.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really sweet time. And you can explain it to them and be like, well, Mom's doing this because when you cream the butter and the sugar together, it helps, make the cookie overall a lot fluffier and lighter.
Right.
And it'll challenge you because then you start to learn the science behind it because your kids are going to ask you. And then that makes you overall a better baker. And it helps you articulate, and it helps them become more knowledgeable.
Yeah. Especially I've been working with kids, and they'll say, like, why is something? And I'll say, because God created it that way. And then, why? And you're like, man, I should investigate the why behind that. It's just a good learning experience for everyone.
Yeah. And it's overall just really, it's really sweet. And they just feel like they are accomplishing something. And it gives them a purpose with their lives. Because I think, too, it's important to let kids feel that purposefulness and then their mission. And it's like, my mission right now is to go get milk for Mom.
Right.
And it makes them feel like they're being helpful and they're useful and they're being productive. And so it's simple things like that. And it's not hard.
No.
You know, but I feel like for us, it just really helped us, you know, love the kitchen and love being with mom when she was cooking. And it made us feel welcome. I think some moms that we know just are kind of like, oh my word, dinner time is so hard because my kids are just all the time around me. And it's like, they want to be where mom is. And so find creative ways to help include them in the kitchen. What would be another one you think?
Another one. Okay, our parents did this to us. We hit a certain age. I don't know. I was maybe 7, 8. Somewhere around there. Yeah. I think.
We were on vacation, I think.
We were on vacation. Well, they sat us down before vacation, but this happened while we were on vacation. And basically, it was like, moment. Yeah, basically, like, it was like, girls, you are going to be homemakers one day. You're gonna, you know, Lord willing, be married. So we're gonna start the preparation now. And obviously, they had been preparing us before, whether we realized it or not.
Right.
It had been. It's, of course, our whole training ground up until marriage is training for marriage. And so, but it was like, you will need to take care of a home one day, and so you're gonna learn to bake. It's, you know, you don't have an option. But it was like, but we're gonna make it fun. Like, right. So then it's fun for us, but then also we can make it fun for other people.
Well, I think like at the same time they were like, girls, and they had set all 4 of us down.
Yeah.
They're like, girls, you need to learn how to bake. Boys, you need to learn how to change the oil.
Yes.
They're like, this is gonna happen. And when you accomplish this goal, we're gonna add another goal. Then we're gonna add another goal. And it really did. It at first started as kind of like a command, right? But then I think it took like the first time, and then it was definitely a get to, not a got to.
But they started us off easy. It was just a little box mix of brownies, you know, like whatever it was. I don't know if it was like Ghirardelli or, you know, you can get the store, it's the box mix, and you basically just add all the flour mixture is there ready to roll. You just have to add your wet ingredients. And so it was like a small victory, but we also felt like we accomplished something great because, you know, we'd been helping mom, obviously, I'm sure. But it was kind of on your own, a great place to start. Like, she's here, but kind of follow the instructions and see how you do.
Yep.
And then from there, of course, we were able to level up. Sometime after that, we had made a pie.
Oh, no.
I don't know what pie it was.
She's going to show this
mm-hmm. And so we were still not great at doing the measurements, like, you know, a teaspoon of this or whatever. It was a 4th teaspoon of salt is what the recipe needed. And our genius selves put in a 4th cup of salt. We get into the end and we're like, what is wrong with this pie? So we're like, okay, we're not sure what went wrong. We're going to try it again. We're going to be faithful little people here, and we're going to try it again. We try it again. We do the same blasted thing again. Finally, we realize, you have to start walking through the ingredients list. All right, we added 2 eggs, whatever. We get to the salt, I guess, so we're like, oh, wait. Do you know what we used?
4th cup of salt. You're welcome, everybody.
I wrote it's a little low on their sodium. We thought we'd help you out. So, the fact that you may have some just inedible pies.
Or that time, do you remember when we forgot the eggs in the
we saved that, though. Whipped that out of the oven, put the egg in, and
we did
put it
find
back.
That out. Guys, if you mess up and you forgot to add the eggs to your Ranger bars, you can pull it out of the oven, put it back in a mixing bowl, add the eggs, and put it right back in the oven. Because
otherwise,
turn out just fine.
You just end up with granola if you forget your egg.
Sure. So it was dry. It's not good.
Mm-hmm. No, you can save it.
And it's just so fun when you get to see like how much the family enjoys it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just simple things like that, and then you eventually get to the level where then you send them out on their own. So it got to the point where mom was like, okay, now y'all need to split up, and you need to start baking things alone and separate. And I think because she had started us out young, and it started with something small like grabbing the milk or grabbing the butter or just the small cabinet in the kitchen.
We were building.
And it was fostering a love to be in the kitchen and to start baking. And it was overall just really, it's was a really sweet time. And even now it's like, you know, we're still trying to just better ourselves. And I think they helped also foster the love to level up, because and the desire to learn more and to do more. And so it was just, it's super sweet. And so I would just say, get your kids involved in any way that you can, because there are 2 girls here that you're listening to now that we're watching that really profited from a mom who just encouraged us to be in the kitchen with her and showed she wanted us to be in the kitchen. Do you remember though, like one of the rules that we always had, this one is very important, so I'm going to add this as a side note, that we have a rule in our house, which is not specified now, it's just a given, that if you made the mess, you clean it up. So like if you baked something, then you ought to clean it up.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps the mom, you know, helps her out if she's got a lot going on and you decide to bake. It's not like she's like, okay, great, now I'm going to have a pile of dishes. Right. It helps lighten the load, and it helps teach the kids, like, okay, if you want to bake something, that's great, but you can't just have fun with it. You've got to also clean it up, and you've got to, and this is part of being a mom, and it also teaches them how to grow up and to love the mundane of just, you know, you have the fun, you have the creativity, and all you got to clean up, but you can also have fun during it. So, like, one of the things we always do is we turn on the music to whichever station we're enjoying at the moment, and, you know, you turn on the music and have some fun, and I think simple things like that just help show them, like, that being a homemaker is fun, and it's creative, and it's imaginative, and you can always get better. You can always level up. But it starts in the small, insignificant, seemingly insignificant task of just including your kids.
Yeah, because all those, I mean, we had a baking business as a family for a little while.
Yep.
I can't remember exactly the span of how long it was. But the building of that moment from the box mix, then it's like, all right, you're going to make 4 loaves of bread on your own. You're in charge of this person's order. Mm-hmm. You know, you're in charge of the cinnamon rolls.
Which that was a growing experience in and of itself, because Mom had started the baking business, and it started with a small amount. Actually, the baking business was supposed to be a gardening business. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But wasn't it supposed to start out where we were selling our garden?
At the farmer's market.
Yeah, we were selling our produce.
Vegetables. 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 There you go. Word of the day. Vegetables. Sound like I've been hanging out with toddlers. Oh. I'm crying. Oh.
I can't help it this hour. Bye. Oh my word. Okay, we gotta pull it together. So, we were trying to sell the vegetables.
We were waiting for the vegetables to come in. We thought, well, this, you know, they're going to be, the farmer's market started, you know, early for vegetables to be in already. And so we were like, well, we'll have some baked goods instead. And that just exploded.
And I mean, it was pretty soon. It didn't take long before we were selling baked goods to the local coffee shop. Yep, with fresh
that was the kicker, because it was like, that was something that a lot of people want to say, like, fresh rolled wheat. When you make things with the fresh rolled wheat, oftentimes people have a hard time making it good, or like
Yeah.
people are looking for quality you find at the store but healthy.
Yeah.
And so finding someone that did that was, revolutionary at that time.
Which was also a sanctification experience there because, well, never mind. Anyway, the point is that we were selling baked goods to the coffee shop, and we were not selling vegetables. We were just selling baked goods. But no, so it got to the point where it got so big because we even had things like simple things that with the townspeople, and it was like, we had like little competitions. So it was like, are you an edge or a center brownie lover?
Yeah.
And so it was like edge or center, and so it literally came to the point where like we would bake brownies, and we would just box up the edges, and we would just box up the centers, and they were never together. And
they're passionate about that.
Oh my word, they're
really
very
passionate about it.
Yep. And so it was really funny. And so, but we had people that would like call ahead of time and be like, what are you guys gonna have at the farmer's market? And we'd explain, and they'd be like, can I go ahead and claim 12 of the brownies, or can I go ahead and claim because we were even selling like pizza dough.
Yes.
And it was like, I mean, we sold so much. We sold peach preserves down to the brownies, and it was a lot. And so, but what would happen was, because we were selling with these baked goods with fresh milled wheat, we would have to be prepping this the night before. And so it wasn't like, we could prep it, a week in advance. And so it was a lot of nights. I remember we would be baking. Mom was so gracious again to include us in the baking business, and so we would help her. We would be making scones late at night, and so we would have a list, and I think we would have like, it would be like, I think we counted, and it was not uncommon to have like 130 baked goods that had to get made that night, for the next day, because we were also delivering the orders. And so it was like the coffee shop delivering the orders, and then every Saturday in the summer, it was the farmer's market. And so there was a lot that was happening in the week and then beyond that. And so at night, we had school to do during the day. So we'd obviously do our school. Mom had just simple, Mom had our classic, what are you laughing at? Sorry. What are you laughing at?
It's going something.
But
getting back to my memory, and I got tickled.
So Mom was doing her homemaking tests throughout the day and helping her dad. It was a lot that was happening all at once. And so, but we would all be doing our different stuff that we had to catch up on during the day. And then at night, all of us girls would get together, usually after dinner was served and we got the dinner cleaned up, and we would start baking. And we would be baking long into the next morning.
Oftentimes till like 4 a.m.
Yeah, so what was so funny was there would be times where we would, so we have, the way our property was laid out was that our neighbor's driveway went in front of our house, but not like directly in front of our house.
We could see their road.
Yeah, but we could see their road coming from their house to the main road.
Right.
And so we, so we would be cleaning up. Usually we'd just be wrapping up and being ready to go to bed. And we would see the neighbors drive by for work the next morning.
Yes.
And we were like, it must be nice. We were like, we would love to just get some sleep, actually.
They were like, when we first started out, I was like so sick of the smell of bread. Like, you're just acclimating to being up till like 2, 3, 4 a.m. and you're still smelling bread.
Well, we figured out too that there was certain levels of tiredness that you reach. So it's like so you're tired, right? So you're just standardly tired for the day. And then you reach a level probably, I think we said, what was it, like midnight? You reach a level of you're slap happy. And
everything's funny.
Everything is funny.
Yeah.
Like, we would say, like, it wasn't even like it was intended to be funny. But we would just say some stuff. And it was like, for whatever reason, that statement just struck a nerve, and we all just started dying laughing.
Yes.
And then you get to a level of just like, you're almost asleep standing up, and you're just done.
Useless world.
That was around 4 is when that would kick in.
Your feet hurt.
But no, it really taught us a lot. And
endurance.
Yeah, because it wasn't like you could just, go to bed and sleep in until 10, 11 o'clock.
Catch up.
And then just catch up on your day, because you knew you had to get up and do it again. So you had to get up and do school. Or for mom, she had to get up and take care of everyone. And so it wasn't like life could stop. And so it really helped grow us in a lot of ways. And going back to the baking, it really helped grow our baking skills, because, there's a certain pressure that also comes with knowing you're making these scones for your local coffee shop. And it wasn't like, you could just go, it wasn't like you could ship it off somewhere and it doesn't matter if it failed, because, they're never going to see you or be in your presence. But it was like, and I think we had also known the coffee owners, mom and dad did.
Yeah.
They had certain ties to them. And so it was like, it was definitely like a growing experience all the way around. And then it just helped us, because like you had to go and you had to sell. So it was like you made it and then you had to sell the products. The stories always crack me up. People longingly would pass by our bread tent, and they would just look at it longingly, and we'd be like, do you want a sample? And then they would look at us offendedly, be like, I'm keto.
Why are you here?
What are you looking at our table longingly for? You either need to get some bread or you need to move on.
Yeah. You look like you could use a cinnamon roll. Can we help you out?
Do you remember?
Oh, no.
One of the reviews we got. And,
about the jalapenos? Yeah.
So Mom made all sorts of different breads. So we had cranberry, walnut, cheddar, cinnamon.
Yeah.
And one of the bread options that we had, it was my favorite, was jalapeno cheddar.
It was good.
And one of the reviews we got was this snooty lady. She literally came back and was like, your jalapenos are raw.
How dare you?
What? They're raw? It's a pepper.
Have you ever been out? Store?
What did you want us to do? Saute them before we put them in the... Not sure that would taste very grand. Oh, so funny. You definitely saw all types.
But it was a great training ground, and it did start early on, making the whole the kitchen feel like a safe space, a place we wanted to be.
Yep.
And to this day, the main spot we gather is in our kitchen. If anything's gonna get rearranged so that we can get the most done, it's gonna be in the kitchen, so that you can sew in there. I can do flowers in there if it's possible. And so it really did just really help shape us, I think, to have a love for that. And then the work, of course, that would be, being a wife, mom, a homemaker, and then making that special. So really, really grateful for that. It was a wonderful experience. And then
it really was. Even
through the baking business in the late nights, it's still good. Not everyone has to have a baking business, obviously, but it taught us, still, joy through the difficult times, and also good training for when the babies do come along. You have to function and do well still on little sleep. So all around a wonderful, wonderful experience.
It was. And it was funny, even the ending of the baking business was really a sweet moment to witness with our mom. She had the opportunity for the baking business to be exponent. It got to the point where the business had to be
a storefront, building.
It was so big we had to upgrade, and it was either buy a storefront with an industrial kitchen or it was shut it down. And it was a really sweet moment that Mom just sacrificed that because she was seeing just the toll that it was taking on everyone, including herself. And it was just, there was a potential for it to be huge. And it was just really sweet to see her step back and just realize that was not the best thing for our family at that time. And so it was a really encouraging thing to witness because we were really grateful for our mom for that. And it was a time that we appreciated, and it certainly grew us. Yeah. And so it was just, the Lord just decided that door needed to be shut. And so it was a really sweet time. But to this day, she is still a phenomenal baker, even though it's not her favorite thing to do.
Yep.
But it's pushed us all, and
it has.
And it honestly, it has been a huge get to, not got to. And those moments in the baking business are still one of the fondest memories I have with my mom, and you have mentioned you've had with her.
And that even, I think, kind of kickstarted why Thanksgiving is the way it is.
It is, yeah. We have this huge tradition. Well, should we share this or should we save it for a Thanksgiving episode?
This needs to be an episode.
We should save it for an episode. We'll hold that tradition.
Yeah.
But we would and even too, we found ways to make it fun. So we would get a hot chocolate at night. It would be just us girls got the hot chocolate.
Because Dad had to go to work, and so he needed sleep.
Yep. So he would go to bed with the boys, and it would be at midnight we got the hot chocolates, or if it was I think we even at times did peppermint bark, or we would make we would do certain snacks, or we'd have I don't even remember all we did, but we would also turn on some dumb movie and it would be in the background while we were baking. Yeah. And so we'd be talking and still doing things, and we'd just turn on something dumb and just have it playing through. And it was just it was such a sweet time.
It was.
But yeah, so on that note, I have a question. Mm-hmm. So what have you, Lydia, personally been working on recently in the baking world? What have you been trying to accomplish
in the baking world? Okay.
Or what have you recently discovered?
This is not recent, but it's something I really just want to really work on.
I said recent.
Yeah, but it's come to my mind again. I had made it a while back, and it's come to mind again that I really want to just perfect it.
Okay.
Babka.
Yeah, I could use some babka.
I made babka a while back.
Delicious babka.
And it was just not quite right.
No, guys, it was great. She says, no. She says it was not sweet enough. But it was perfect. It was just the right amount of sweetness. It was perfect.
Anyway,
it was chocolate babka.
I think bread as a whole, I really just want to be so in tune with the dough. You know what I mean? Okay, it needs.
Which is babka already chocolate? If you say babka, does that automatically include chocolate?
I don't believe so.
I didn't think it did, but I was maybe it does.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's different types. I believe it's a Jewish bread that it can be sweet or savory. It's basically stuffed bread.
Mm.
Because you roll it up. And then you slice it and do the twist thing.
It's very pretty bread.
It is. It was a pretty loaf. It was just. It was good. I want to work on my bread as a whole, though. Just really, just be all right, this is what it needs, and just know to be able to intuit that. And so it's just going to require doing it often. I think I know the recipe, at least our family recipe, enough, I think. And we have it written down so I can follow that, but just to really know it the back of my hand would be my goal.
That's awesome.
How about for you?
So I have two.
Okay.
So obviously the bread, but that's not my two. I want to get better at just traditional bread. I wanted to get better at just the everyday
loaf bread.
Yeah, poor man's bread. Just get better at it. But because I want to find that staple bread. You know what I mean? Where everyone just loves it, and it's no one makes this type of bread. You know what I mean? Where it's just if I want this type of loaf, I know who to go to.
Oh, it's your classic Esther makes the best.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to find my loaf.
Yeah.
But that's a side. the thing that I really have wanted to do for a long time is donuts. I want to perfect the donut.
Yeah, the donuts came out of nowhere.
It's hard with the fresh milled wheat to make a donut. I tried sourdough donuts. Family didn't like them. But already...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because our family is not huge on sourdough. Well, our dad's not huge on sourdough.
I'm not huge on sourdough.
Me neither. So, I think it is our family as a whole. I think Mom could go for it more.
Maybe.
But it was one of those things that I tried, and then they just didn't really like it. So, it was a lot of work for no one to like it. So, and the point of the sourdough was to bless the family. So, if they didn't like it, it was pointless. So, so I gave that up afterwards. But no, I tried it. I've just tried different recipes, and I would love to just perfect the donut. And I want the classic taste, right? But then still the fresh milled wheat, which may be an impossibility. But I want to perfect it. And I've tried many different recipes. But, so that would be one. I want to perfect the donut. But on a side note, I recently found this lady on Instagram.
Okay.
She popped up. It was actually Mom's fault because Mom tried a bread. It was like the classic bread that has like, I think it was, she said, some sort of cream in it instead of like
an enriched loaf.
Right, yeah. And so so she tried that and she had seen the recipe from this certain lady on Instagram. And so I looked into this lady's Instagram account. Well, then Instagram just started feeding me all these different baked good recipes. And I was like, oh my word, like, this is crazy. So through that, I discovered, and this was like over time. So I'm not like, it wasn't like I was doom scrolling.
In a day, yeah.
Yeah. And so I had come across this French lady. And literally her whole Instagram account is in French.
That's hilarious.
Like the whole Instagram account. But
yeah.
she has these amazing recipes.
Yeah, they do.
Like it's really intricate. Like she even has one for dulce de leche and and she has some for beignets, and it looks so good. She has focaccia, and her Instagram account is just amazing. And so I have recently discovered, I'm so excited with this recent discovery to try her recipes out.
Yeah.
And so I am just going to put her recipes into ChatGPT and it'll translate it for me.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm going to try it out.
Make some donuts.
Because, yeah, it's like all baked goods and patisserie things. And so I'm just really excited.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Level up.
Yep. So
that's
if it's
a good
good,
goal.
I'll come back and I'll share the account.
Report on the findings of the donut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was like, it has to be great, right? I mean, she sounds pretty legit, so.
First recipe so far was spectacular.
So we'll see.
I'm a happy camper that you are into the donuts. It's horrible for my waistline, though.
Actually, one thing I need to get better at is glaze.
I thought it was great, but
icing in general is not my forte. I'm gonna get better at it.
I think you're good.
I can make
but
the base of whatever it is, the cake, the donut, but just the overlay of the glaze or the icing is just where I struggle. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's because I try to wing it too much.
Yeah. I had the tendency, I haven't made like a cake that I've iced in a, like that. Like, I made a knout cake. You know?
So good.
But that just has the whipped cream and the strawberry, so it's not like I had to ice it.
Right.
And so, but when I was younger, I used to just, my patience was not in the right spot, and I would just get tired of working on the cake for so long, because I would want to do elaborate, you know, what you'd see in a professional bakery somewhere with all of the intricate, you know, swirls and twirls and, you know, the wonderful designs. And so I need to try that again.
That's where I love the actual decorating part. I remember one time for Christmas, I think for an Advent or something, I wanted to make a cake, and I of course decided to go the extreme route, and this cake had like multicolored icing that would like start at white at the bottom, and then it gradually got darker as it got to the top. Or maybe it was the other way.
You did a good job. I remember that.
No, it started darker because then I had the trees. I piped on the trees on the sides of the cake.
Okay.
And it was white. The trees were white.
Okay.
And then there was like a buttercream. And then the bottom was a dark blue.
Mm.
Almost a black.
Okay.
And then it gradually got to a white at the top. It was a fun cake to make.
Yeah.
I think that's the best cake I've ever made. Was that cake. As far as the decorating goes.
Yeah, you did a really good job.
But I feel like I need to get better at it.
New goals in the
Overall.
baking world.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, on that note, on the French Instagram accounts and
let us know what
cake.
goals you have in the kitchen and what you're working on. Do you have any fun insights to share? Let us know
your tips.
Yes.
On baking, because we'd be interested to hear them.
Yes, very much.
Who knows? You might give me the donut recipe that.
Yeah, if you've got it.
Alters my world.
If you've got it and it's not some family secret, let us know.
Yeah. Well, even if it is family secret, just DM us or something. I want to have it.
We won't say anything.
I want the donut recipe. So, anyway, this was a great combo.
Yeah.
Get your girls in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
It is. It's been good having had that experience.
Yep.
So.
Mom was great. So, anyway, be that mom.
Yeah. And we will see you all on the next episode of the Feminine Glory Podcast.
Have a great week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was a funny episode.
Vegetables.
Vegetables.